What is up, everyone? This week, I don't know if you know, I am paid by EFF. This is a state sponsored podcast. I need to let everyone know that up front. We are very EFF forward. Um, so, yeah, just let's
And
get that out of the way. By the
not
way,
stingy with the funds because that getup is on fire. I need something like that.
yeah, I'm digging it. I'm digging it.
Who made it? My
I
God.
did.
Yeah, I know. That was
I did. I did. Don't know. It's not even
that's
worth
your
the joke.
specialty. Maybe not everyone knows that. That is your specialty.
Yeah, so this week we got a little bit to talk about. How are you guys doing this week? What is up with you guys? Adam, what is up? Give me something specific that happened 2 days ago in 3 words.
2 days ago, I played games. I was about to say video games, but that would be 4.
Okay, I'll take it. All right.
There you go.
You get your state-sponsored food ration for the week. I'll give you that. Steven, how are you doing?
Good, man. Hey, rumors of our demise were greatly exaggerated. We are back after a little 2-week hiatus. I guess 2 days ago I was getting sunburned like just terrible. Waiting in line to get my Gundam fix. So
Oh wow. Outside. Waiting outside.
Yeah, it was I guess it was around 86, 87 degrees while we were just
No
chilling in line.
shade
That
at all?
line, it went around the trailer like 6 or 7 times. I'm like,
Ooh.
anybody could just technically walk up in here. I think one guy at one point just went in and grabbed a water bottle off of like one of the tables. And
That's funny. So Steven went to the Gundam base this week. So overall, how was your experience? Obviously very sunny, very hot. But other than that, what did you experience? And we'll get into, we talked about kind of the how it was run. We'll talk about that a little bit too. But tell us, what did you buy too? What did you buy? I bet you bought something.
Well, I'm a cheapskate. No, actually, so this is my advice now that I have been to this event and I got to experience it, a little vicariously through some of the RVA Gunpla crew. Shout out to Nickel Models and all of them for everything that they do, for the local Gunpla community and then also for the event. But now that I've experienced it, I know that if you want to buy things, you go on Friday. If you want to stand in line and sweat your butt off, then you go on Saturday. And if you want to go and actually hang out and do some of the more experience-based stuff, you go on Sunday. So by the time I had got there on Saturday, anything that I personally wanted to buy was already gone. And so I ended up picking up, just a couple of the Gundam-based limited things, just like an option part kit and then, one of the mobile Haros for my daughter. But yeah, besides that, it was like, I'm not crazy about like the robot spirits or like some of those types of collectibles. So that wasn't necessarily for me.
Was there something you wanted? Because you said some stuff wasn't there when you got there. Was there something?
Yeah, sounds like your first choice was gone.
Yeah, so they actually had that real type, like the 21st century type marking, Gundam Mark II and Sharazaku. So those they both had those stuff. And one of the guys actually came up to the gentleman that I was standing with in line. One of these guys came up to us and said like, "Hey, they're all out of P Bandai." Like I asked, they don't even have. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is they just had pallets behind the trailer with Gunpla in them, like that had on the side of the box. It was like clear color type Penelope, and I was just thinking, man, someone who has less scruples than I do just definitely run up and snag a box, and they'd be eBay wealthy, I guess. But
it'd be fun to try to hide the Penelope box. It'd be like how they messed up the Obi-Wan show and have Leia hidden in the trench coat, but instead it's the Penelope box.
Not that I endorse such behavior because honestly, like who wants a clear color Penelope anyway?
That's it.
But no, aside from that, I think it's a great event. I'm glad that Bandai is doing it, that they're doing this kind of outreach. I think that the timing of it was perfect for our area anyway, because obviously Gundam Breaker 4 had just dropped, and so a lot of people were, hey, let me go try out Gundam Breaker 4 here at the booth. So that was cool.
Nice. How was the Oh, go ahead.
Real quick, Kyle, have you played Gundam Breaker 4?
I have not. I was going to get
Okay.
into that. Yeah, I have not played it. I was even going to do a Gundam Breaker video, and then I said I don't want to, so I didn't.
There's all the different types of Gundam stuff we could possibly cover.
And you know what? I'm glad that you say that, because that's one of the things that that has been sort of a rallying cry around all three of us, where it's like there is so much Gundam content and Gundam merchandise out there. You really don't have to consume everything that you. And I even hate using the word consume. Right? That makes us sound
Right.
like.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like it's dirty. It sounds like
Yeah,
nothing better
exactly.
than
It's like
consume.
Bandai is Freddy Krueger, like stuffing stuff
Yeah.
in your mouth.
I mean, it is to a certain extent. Let's be real. They're like, if they're allowed to be greedy assholes and take our money, we could say they're consuming, or we're consuming a certain amount. I think.
Yeah.
I think.
There
I
you
don't
go.
But yeah, no Gundam Breaker 4. How is it so far? It looks pretty cool from what the gameplay I saw. Looks
Yeah,
pretty cool.
It's nothing remarkable, but it is a good time. I would say that, especially if you're like a Gundam fan, Gundam Breaker fan, it's a very easy game to get into and have fun with. So nothing crazy there. Yeah.
I always think about doing more like Gunpla content. But one thing to note is those videos, the Gunpla videos that I've made in the past, are the ones that get demonetized.
Oh, really?
And the ones that get like copyright like things, and I have to like
You mean
fix
just
it, edit
going over a model?
videos footage of anime. Like you specifically have done
Oh, yeah.
Gundam Build Breakers and Gundam Build Fighters.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you know. So like I've done all of which from Mercury. I've shown a lot of footage from that show. No problem. Build Fighters, no.
The
No,
origin
sure.
for me.
You know, that's interesting, because I wonder what type of arrangements are made with like between companies, because like Crunchyroll has a bunch of those Witch from Mercury clips that are like extended clips, like, oh, here's Suleta's first duel, here's like Suleta and Mjolnir's reunion. Now those things are still available to watch, actually on the Gundam Info channel. So you have to imagine, like, okay, so is Crunchyroll just kind of eating the copyright strike on that when it comes to YouTube, or do they have a special relationship where they're not flagged by the content ID system?
It's like a influencer marketing thing. If you ever seen like a channel that just posted a trailer, and you're just like, why are they posting the trailer?
IGN does that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very good.
You know what I've noticed is actually a new and kind of despicable practice is, of course, I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and she loves all things like Disney and Pixar and stuff. And I was like, oh, crap, they've got like a Frozen 3 trailer here, and they've got like a Moana 2 trailer. I'm like, I didn't even know that they were making some of these movies. And I click on them, and they are AI-generated fan trailers. And it's like, man,
it's crazy.
I'm impressed with the quality of crap that they can crank out.
And just seeing the thumbnail, not even looking at the trailer and being like, "Oh, this is coming. Oh, they already got a trailer." It gets you every time.
Oh yeah. So for those of you savvy listeners, get on ChatGPT or whatever your preferred text to video generator is, and go ahead and make some fake trailer. Make the Gundam live action movie trailer that we all wish we could see.
Ooh, that would be great. Give it 3 arms and it's weird and it comes out of its chest.
Its fingers are,
and it has like a human smile on its face.
Oh, creepy. Have you read the Flanagan Boone comic at all? The manga.
No.
So Flanagan Boone, a part of the Mad Angler team during 0079, he has his own comic leading up to those events, essentially, and they turn it into like this psychological horror that he's just like haunted by the Gundam, and he sees a real face in the Gundam every time he has these nightmares, and the artwork is just insane. It's like, have you ever read like any Juni Ito stuff?
I was about to say some Ito style body horror.
Yes, it's very much like that, and it's creepy. You get these eyes on a Gundam, and it's just like unsettling.
Now, did you cover the Flanagan Boone manga on Simply New Type?
I covered 2 issues so far. It's kind of a slow run, so it'll be a slow run on our channel as well as it slowly releases.
Wait,
well,
and so
I was going to say I was singing your praises to some of the folks in line who were asking about like you know, it would. Oh man, some Gundam fans are just preposterous with some of their, I guess, I would call it willful ignorance at a certain point, because
Sure.
there's not knowing that certain things exist, but then there's
Mhm.
like willfully choosing to ignore that certain things exist. And so this gentleman was saying to me, you know, like, how come they never did anything with the kids from White Base? Like, never see them again, like in the mangas or in anime or
No.
anything. I'm like, well, there's that whole thing with like cats in Zeta Gundam, so that's one thing. And then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, and also my buddy's covering the manga where Kika is going back and
Kika.
interviewing the White Base crew. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
However, Let's did nothing. You did nothing. You amounted to nothing. Let's Kika, cats.
should have left his ass on side 7.
Another thing is amazing is okay. So in Zeta, right? What's her name's pregnant? Midai's pregnant. Not Midai. Sorry. Frau Bo's pregnant, right?
Oh yeah.
In this manga with Kika, the Amado Pulitzer, they have the child. No one has named this child yet. It is still not named. They refuse to call it by a name. They call it like the kid, the child. No one has named this kid. Someone in Bandai give this kid a name is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like the writers couldn't think of anything, so they're like, yeah, we just won't have a name.
Yeah, I just call it unnamed Kobayashi kid.
Hey, but going back to the Flanagan,
Boone.
is it related to the Flanagan Institute?
No,
Oh,
not at
okay.
all.
Just
Yeah,
wondering.
I think the name is Flanagan. He's just a rough Xeon soldier, old type, kind of burdened. He has this like overburdened feeling, like an old soldier would, like
Oh,
someone who's carrying a lot of
He's
weight.
probably like 26.
yeah, it's
I think
really,
he
yeah.
is like
He's
something like
green.
that, and he's already like balding and like.
Yeah,
But
Gundam
that is-
characters are so strange like that. You know, it's like,
Ooh.
oh, Ron Baral's 35.
Yeah, I know. But that is neat, though. An example in the Gundam universe, and there's others where names show up multiple times and they're unrelated.
Mm.
Like I think it was in was it in Star Wars an Antilles, something Antilles, and he like that's the name of a character.
Wedge.
Yeah, that was Wedge. Yeah.
But I don't think it was Wedge. I think it was another one.
Was there another Antilles?
There's 2 Antilles. I don't like that.
Yoda's out there like, there is another.
Yeah. No, but anyway, that's kind of funny because Flanagan, and I want to say I was watching something Gundam just recently, and I had a name. I think it might have been your video, Kyle. And there was a name of someone. Oh, Lino.
Lino, yeah.
That's the name of the character in Double Zeta.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's another example of where sometimes in
Yes.
fiction a universe will have two, which is neat because that's believable.
Yeah.
Are we should have Game of Thrones where everyone's name is like Aegon. There's like 5 Aegons. or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But yeah, it's interesting. They people need to be more creative with names, even Japanese people. Who would have thought? It is interesting.
Not Tomino, though. Tomino needs to get out of the biology books if we're going to talk about naming things.
Yeah, no. Also, that's a good point that you bring up is that Japanese people really love to use French names. They love it so much. A lot of Japanese people who want to go to culinary school typically go to France instead of New York or Italy. They love the culture. They love the cooking.
That Baroque style tends to be used a lot in Japanese fiction, like that. Not as much as in Western, And I almost kind of associate that with kind of the French style thing, kind of like an elite classical.
Kind of like that Napoleonic era.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, shoot, even like, you're a big Castlevania fan. Like Castlevania is like heavily Frenchly inspired.
Yeah.
Frenchly.
But yes, it's interesting that's kind of there's a romanticization of it. And it's I guess it goes to that they've got like those psychological refuges for Japanese tourists in France where it's like they've hyped up the idea of France so much that when they actually go there to visit and tour the country. It's like, this is not what I heard about in movies and textbooks.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's it's derived from like Greek architecture and kind of that look, but with almost like the Victorian. It seems to be used a lot, like in even future stories in Japanese fiction. In the future, that's like the high society look, which is also what we associate even historically to the high society. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, usually high society and typically associated with the monarchy of some sort.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which is always the case. They do look good while destroying people's lives, which is nice. Always look good.
Yeah,
well,
doing it.
Committing genocide.
Yeah.
That's what I say. By the way, this is sponsored by EFF. Be sure to stay on Earth, everyone. Just stay there. Don't leave. All right.
I believe the evil Xeon propaganda where we show, devastation in New York.
I need it. Yeah. But Adam, what have you been up to? What have you been playing? I haven't talked about the Concord stuff. I'm sure you guys have talked your tongues about that, so we won't talk about that at all. But what has been
about it privately? But I don't think we addressed it on streams. But I don't know if there is much to say about it, honestly.
Although I think it's just shocking that a premier studio, a AAA platform holder, would put that much effort into a game and then cancel it after releasing it. That seems like a bad precedent. Like, to know that the platform that you like could just decide to cancel their game at any time, or that already out, or it's
yeah. I mean, it makes people not want to pre-order video games or get involved early on, because it's like, well, I don't know how long this is going to last.
Let's be real.
Yeah, it's bad optics. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I would think any other company would be like, Sony, what did you just do? Now, people aren't going to want to pre-order. People are going to look at these things. Like, it reminds me, and I could be wrong, but I always think this, it reminds me of how Warner Brothers treated the Zack Snyder DC stuff. It's like, the Batman vs Superman didn't make the numbers they want. So like, we'll just change everything up. Okay, we'll just, no. And it's like, no. Let it cook.
Right. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this, and I'm sure that people listening have experienced this, but like working in retail or food service, when, you as an employee are trying to do what's right by the company, God forbid, you young and naive fools doing like, you're like, no, I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't return that. Like, it's clearly used and damaged. And then the manager comes up and is like, oh no, of course, we'll take care of that for you. My employee's an idiot. That's the same type of vibe that you get from a massive release that is very it's well backed at launch, but then once they see the feedback on it or early reviews, it's like, ooh, let's walk that back. And that's like you said, I think it's a terrifying precedent to set, Adam.
And then just on top of that, what's interesting is how little fanfare they actually gave this game leading up to its release. Because in fact, I was surprised. It was like a Sony, it might have been a Summer Games event where they showed the trailer and everyone's like, oh, what, this game? Oh, like everyone forgot about it. The other aspect, and this is not to get controversial, is apparently that game was purposely like DEI-ified, like not in a bad way, just more of, okay, we're going to make this game and we're going to purposely make sure we're hitting on all these things. So it's almost like Sony decided to let this thing die because they didn't want, just kind of like we're seeing with even in politics, how they're kind of dropping the social angle right now. It's like they don't want to make anyone mad.
It does seem like a transition, right? From that like cater to everyone's thing to we're just a business like we've always been and probably should have always been.
Yeah.
But there's like this that maybe that game got caught up in the midst of it, which is
I agree.
I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. With having like if you want to make a game that's like DEI packed, like go for it. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But understand that it might not have that mass market appeal. Like it used to be that when indie directors, when they would release movies, they would make their passion project with the full understanding, like, I'm not going to make $1 billion off this movie, but this is important for me to express. And that's fine. Go for it. Do that stuff. But I think to your point, Kyle, like, these businesses that were trying to capitalize on that social messaging angle, no matter what messaging they were trying to send, it's like you didn't really believe it in the first place. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. You wanted to have the social messaging and also make a huge profit off of it. And that's where, the disconnect is.
Yeah. That's why I think them canceling it is a bizarre move. Like, there's more to it than just simply the game didn't do well. I mean, look at Microsoft with Redfall on Xbox. Same thing happened, but they just, okay, we'll patch an offline mode, we'll fix the last of the bugs, and now that's available on Game Pass. So it's weird. It's weird.
Now, Kyle, do you think that Concord? I've been asking everyone this. Do you think that Concord would have lasted longer if it were backed by a already established IP, the way that Gundam Evolution was?
I mean, it would last longer. Not
longer, but
but how long? I don't know. Yeah, not too long.
Yeah, that's what I think we were saying. If it was like all Sony characters, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially with Astrobot, a different type of game, and they can kind of complement each other, like kind of the Sonyverse, PlayStation.
Yeah,
there you go.
I want Kratos to slit Sackboy's throat, just like a bunch of yarn comes out, just like
yes, yarn.
Yeah,
like Akira when the guy's stomach, opens up, and it's like, but Sackboy, all the yarn and stuffing is coming out.
Come on, Sony, give it to me. Oh, they did do that fighter on PlayStation 3 a while back, right?
I liked it.
I remember it vaguely.
Yeah, it was fun. And again, that's another example of them just kind of being like, we'll just forget about it. It's like, no, don't drop these things.
That's weird. Is it that they're too rich? Is this why we shouldn't have billionaires? Because they're just like, I'm bored now.
Yeah.
I'm done.
It's like they're not even trying. It's the same thing with Batgirl, movie.
At least they wrote that off. Like, they could have not released this game and wrote it off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if that's is there gonna be like a rising industry of entertainment insurance companies that are like, hey, are you worried that your movie, video game, or book is gonna flop? Pay us a monthly premium just to make sure that your investment is
seems
safe.
like that would be a thing.
Yeah.
Just because that is such a big risk.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Have you heard of the Secret Level?
Oh,
TV
yeah.
show? Yeah, so
we're gonna have an episode of Concord.
It's gonna have a Concord episode, so that's interesting. I'm kind of excited for that show.
I
just want to see Mega Man. There's a Armor Core show version.
Honestly, I'm excited for the YouTube reviewers to get a hold of it and like dismantle the things that are.
Oh yeah, but I just love that it's Tim Miller. This is the guy that was revolutionizing with Blur Studios. Went on to do Deadpool, Sonic. Like, he knows how to get neat projects actually made, and I think it's a good example of that because there's a bunch of different IPs. How do they manage that? So that guy knows how to put stuff together. And you know what? He was crying when he was presenting it. I don't know if you guys saw that when he was presenting it live during the Gamescom. I think it was. He was crying because he's so proud, and like that, I resonated with that. Like,
I've been told, I'm getting told in my ear that that's not enough pride for EFF. It's too much pride for something else.
Yeah,
tone it down. Tone it down, Tim Miller. It'll be interesting. I'm excited to see it. I didn't know it was still like till December, so we got some time.
And so video game related and Warhammer related, I also got to play Space Marine 2, which comes out today. And I pre-ordered it to get the early access because I'm crazy like that, and it's a great game. Love it. I mean, look, if you're a Warhammer fan, I mean, it does what you're expecting. If you've never played any of these games before, you actually have a lot of fun with this. This is kind of a straightforward third-person shooter, just with a lot of cool options for using different weapons like swords, chain swords, all different types of guns, weapons, and just the graphic. The graphics look insane, but from an art direction perspective, like if I break everything down, I could be like, well, this doesn't look as good. This is not that many polygons, but I think they made up for that with like incredible art direction, taking the best from that Warhammer 40K and really making you feel like you're there. Like, it's already extreme. Its designed elements are extreme in the first place, but the game really captures that. So get this. it's been in early access since last week, and it had over like 100,000 people playing in early access on Steam, and it's on PlayStation and Xbox, and it is cross play. So I think this is going to be a pretty big game.
And would you recommend it for non-Warhammer fans as like an onboarding?
Oh yeah, because that's funny. That's how I got into Warhammer 40,000 was the games, not knowing anything about the IP, but the games were fun, and this is definitely that. Yeah,
there you go.
Nice. I used to play you guys remember like 20 years ago? It was essentially a Red Alert, not
Dawn
Red
of
Alert,
War.
a StarCraft 2 version of Warhammer 40K.
Yeah. Dawn of War.
Dawn of War. Yes. Okay. Dawn of War. Thank you. Yes.
Well, that's what got me into
Was the RTSs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, got me into Dawn of War, or got me into Warhammer 40,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I loved RTSs, and I was like, oh, a command, like you said, Red Alert, which you're almost cosplaying. And then so I playing Dawn of War, I just loved how they took the RTS to the next level, like having those outposts like in the middle to capture to kind of make it where there's battles in the middle, but then just like all these units, and I'm like, what is this world? And then the second Dawn of War came out. It wasn't like the first, but it was still good, and it was more focused on the individual Space Marine and outfitting them and I liked that. Then I learned more about the world, the lore. It had Tyranids, and learning about those bad guys and all that. It's really cool because Space Marine is really cool. But what's interesting is Warhammer. But what's interesting is all it is Warcraft, Starcraft, or any other like Alien. Like it's interesting how they have things we like, and it's like, what's this configuration of sci-fi alien? And
you got your Marine, you got your hive mind, you got your intelligent alien race.
Yeah. It's cool. It's funny. Yeah, there's nothing remarkable about it on its own, but it just does all the cool sci-fi stuff.
Nice. Yeah. So hopefully the show does it some justice. I'm excited.
Well, I wonder, because what if after that, maybe one of the shows or something gets picked up for like a full thing? You know what I mean? Where they're like, whoa, that Horizon, I don't know if Horizon's in it, or this show, that was good. Let's make a full series. That would be neat.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I would hope so. I assume they're gonna go like, this made numbers, let's do this again.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. I hope so, and I hope it's the Mega Man one.
Good call. I think that would be a good idea in general. Capcom, I would think, would be interested in.
Hell yeah. Let's see more Capcom stuff. That's what I want. Let's see. What have you watched this week, gentlemen? Adam, let's start with you. You've been watching some stuff?
Yeah, so Terminator Zero. I think it's Terminator Zero.
Yes.
Yeah, really good. So it's funny. The main reason I wanted to watch it was, I dig the older Terminator movies, but also I'm very fascinated when something is an anime now, because now that like anime is just another way to tell a story, and it can be awesome. And Terminator does that, because I think, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think it does a good job of being what you want from classic Terminator, but also as if, Japanese writers are like, well, what if we wrote Terminator? And then kind of combined it, and it makes it work, because it was making me ask questions, philosophical questions, but then the show would ask those questions. But it's not like they would give you an answer. Like, there's a lot of times in this show where it's just dialogue between a guy and AI, just like it could be today. And he's asking philosophical questions. And what's neat about it is because it's in context of today with AI and how we interface. Yet the kind of the main issue of the plot is, AI judging us and then killing us. Right. But it's cool since then, all the new things that have happened with AI, where it's like now you can watch this anime in context of what we know from Terminator and what we know nowadays from AI. And it just makes it a very interesting story.
It is cool. I like the idea of like the more or less is like AI has opened this like Pandora's box kind of what is that called? Black sheep moment where just things change.
I don't know.
I can't think of it. There's a book named after it. Anyways, essentially, more or less, it's opened a box, right? So like you have all these different AIs coming out, and that's the whole thing. Is like you could destroy one, but there'll be another type of thing.
And I think that's what's neat, that this story tackles that wasn't part of the original, because it was such a newer concept. So yeah, it's very well done.
Nice. Yeah.
Now, Adam, did you ever see the Animatrix? like the 9 episodes.
I did, but isn't that pretty old by now? Is that like 2004 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, I did
Oh
see
yeah,
that.
super old. But I was wondering like how does something like the Terminator anime compare to that as far as exploring the relationship between humans and AI? Where
Well, that's actually an interesting point. I would probably have to watch that again and see, because it's been so long and there's so many themes and concepts I never considered when I watched, things then. I would have to explore that again now that I appreciate anime more, because even Halo had something called Halo Legends. I think that came
Yeah.
out too around the same time. That was like animation around that. So, yeah.
This reminds me a lot of. Did you watch 2008 when Marvel licensed out a bunch of shows and they made an X-Men anime? They made an X-Men anime. They made an
Oh, I heard about it, but I
a
didn't watch it.
Blade, and they made one more show, Wolverine, I think. It has kind of those vibes. It has kind of an ambiance and a feel that is definitely different that you would see in your typical, I guess, Terminator. You get that. You don't get that James Cameron kind of feel anymore. We've been detached from that for sure. But it's kind of interesting. I like when they kind of explore these new ideas, but they don't just kind of throw everything at the wall. It's very much a slow burn, which is cool. But it doesn't just dwell either. It actually provides you with some meat and potatoes, which is cool. Not a lot of anime does that. They have a great first act and then things fall apart by the third. That's the biggest downfall of anime is the third act. They suck at that.
I mean, I think that's kind of a modern writer trend in general. One of my biggest complaints about all of the Ryan Murphy stuff is that he lacks that kind of stamina to deliver a well executed story. Where a lot of the seasons of American Horror Story, they start out fantastic. Mid-season, you're starting to unravel some of the mysteries around like what the killer might be, what the monster is. But then by the end of it, he tries to M. Night Shyamalan his way out of maybe a conclusion that he had already established by mid-season, and that's when it all kind of just goes off the rails.
That reminds me, did you finish watching Evil? Because I remember you told me.
No, I haven't.
Because do you see how it does with its plot, where it's like it's unfolding, and then near the end, it doesn't answer everything, but it concludes still. Like it's almost like it doesn't tell you what happened.
And I don't think I'm necessarily unhappy when a story does that, where they just kind of
right. They do it really good in Evil. It's like intentionally throwing that third act, because a lot of times they'll have something like, okay, is this real or is this really demonic? And it doesn't actually explain it.
Yeah. Well, moving into kind of the Halloween season, we'll be talking probably more of these kind of tropes. But I want to going on what you just talked about. What was The Thing? The Thing. I love the ending of The Thing. It's obscure. You don't know what happens, who's the killer, if it's who's the alien. You could leave it up to you. You could just say whatever, or you could try to put some logic to who it is, but it's left obscure, and I like that. I really like that.
I like movies that do that.
Yeah, letting the audience make their own interpretation is fun, because that's where guys like us get to talk about it and say like, well, here's my reasoning for why I believe that.
Did you guys see the movie Deep Rising? It came out in the 90s.
Is that the asteroid?
No, Deep Rising was one where there was that ocean liner cruise ship that was boarded by I guess robbers, whatever. They try to steal from the vault, but then there's like these sea creatures that come up. It's like aliens on a boat, and it ends where the main 2 people or 3 people are safe on the island, and it's just zooming out, and then in the distance you see this just giant thing, and then it just ends, and it's like going through the forest. You don't see it, but you see like the trees start coming apart, and it's like and then it ends. There's never been a sequel. There's never been any follow-up story, and I think it's a great movie. It has Treat Williams, who is a cool, charismatic actor, plays the main guy. He has a shotgun. He has he's like Ash when he has his one-liners and all that. Nice. It's a good movie. I think is underappreciated. Oh, directed by I forget his name. The guy that did the Mummy Returns.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so it's a good movie. Good movie. Famke Janssen.
Famke Janssen.
Yeah.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Nice. I just watched the episode of Star Trek where she plays the alien where everyone wants to have sex with her because she emits a pheromone and they're like a sexy race. And it's
Is that Next Generation?
Yeah, next to TNG. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Steven, you watching anything lately?
So aside from the Gundam Seed Freedom movie, I just watched with my wife, and this is probably not geeky, but I think it goes to the to some of the topics and themes that we were just talking about. Is that Perfect Couple movie or series with Liev Schreiber? Well, again, there you go. He's Sabretooth with Sabretooth and and who did Nicole Kidman play in Batman?
Oh yeah,
Vicky Vale.
That's all
So
I know.
Sabretooth and Vicky Vale are married. But no, it's such an interesting, it has potential, which is like, I feel like that's the generic thing you say about, stuff that sucks. It's like, it had such good potential. It's, one of those taut, sexy thrillers. Somebody is murdered and they're trying to investigate this party of wealthy people to find out who did it. And, each episode you find out some secrets about this character and that character, and this one was screwing over that one, and there's money involved here and there. And at the end, it's like, I will say that the reveal of who the killer was just kind of a letdown. And I think that it might have been served better if it had some of that left up to interpretation aspect to it, where maybe the ending, instead of being set in stone, maybe the police do get a suspect and they take them away, but all of the different characters that had different motives for killing this other character, if they had, it's like, well, they were never completely let off the hook. They were never, they didn't have a solid alibi, or they didn't have something. So, it just goes back to that idea of like storytelling nowadays. People kind of, they want their moments, but then they don't really earn those moments through the elements of storytelling. And I think we talked about that a few weeks ago, like with regard to like The Acolyte, right?
Yeah.
You write for these moments, and then I don't know.
Yeah, it's someone that like really loves action in movies. Like I always feel like that's what I'm watching them for. It's really not true. I've looked back and saw that it's always when a good story provides context to make that action scene awesome. And that's what I've kind of learned, like whether it's action or a reveal or something happens, it's usually you need a good story to get it to like really click with you. So
I think I've said this before, but I think this is a product of a lot of writers being told to know your ending. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. When I personally write, I do not like... I might have an idea, but I don't try to force it in there. I try to get there. And I also struggle with the third act. So that, what does that say about me? Who knows? But the point is, a lot of people, when you reverse engineer it in that way, when you work backwards, I feel like you do wedge it in there, right? You put it in, you're putting a thing in a hole, and it's not meant to be there. Or at least it should have took some time. Maybe it needed more time. Maybe it needed more character development. Maybe it needed something, but it didn't get there the right way.
Or how often could it be something got cut?
That, yeah.
Visually speaking, in terms of the filming and editing, and they're like, well, we don't have time to really rewrite this anyway. So then you get some weird, that happens sometimes where it could have just been as simple as a scene got cut. They had one word that explained everything.
How dare they cut a scene that matters just for 2 more seconds of ad revenue?
So I just looked it up. There's a screenwriter by the name of Glenn Gers that I came across some writing advice that he gave that is very character focused, right? And it's you have to answer 6 questions about a particular character, about your protagonist, in order to create a good story. And to your point, it's not about necessarily having a plot and having your ending plotted out, but it's about, establishing motives and things like that. And if I can remember correctly, it goes, who's your character? Like, who are they? What do they want? And this one gets muddy sometimes because when it comes to like Joseph Campbell, hero's journey, that type of thing, people are like, well, what if what they want is to prevent something from happening? Well, then that is what they want, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the third question is, what do they do about it? What do they do about the thing that they want? You know, do they go on a quest? Do they try to attain some MacGuffin, whatever the case may be? Question number 4 is, why doesn't that work? Which I think is a very important one, because it's like, you know, okay, so you set out in order to solve your quest. You have this thing that you want to do, but then there has to be like that complicating factor about why it doesn't happen. And then the fifth question, I think, is like something along the lines of like, so then what does that mean? Like, what happens as a result of it not working? And then I forget what the sixth question is, but the point is, it's like, you know, these are very cause and effect related questions. They're not, you know, I just want these things to happen and then. It's definitely like I want this, therefore I do that, but this happens, and therefore, you know.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I feel like that is some good logic to look at for structuring. And maybe sometimes when we're watching something and we don't like it, we don't realize maybe just some of that logic broke, even though we understand what the character is really trying to do to get from point A to point B. But maybe watching it unfold, we're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. There was a lot of that in Acolyte, you know, and sometimes I don't know how much that is. Okay, we're writing. We know we need to get to B. We haven't figured out how to do it, but we just need to film it. We'll just have them throw a smoke grenade and then they disappeared, even though they're Jedi, you know, and they can't track the non-Jedi. Yeah,
It's kind of not an excuse though, with $200 million.
Yeah, there's no excuse for that. Yeah,
It's almost like the that whole scene in Man of Steel that I think broke everybody's immersion was, of course, you know, Superman's dad being like, no, don't save me. Like, well, we want to have John Kent be killed, but we can't come up with a logical reason for Superman to watch John Kent die.
That's a great example.
Do anything about it.
Yeah,
that does seem like they couldn't really figure something out, and maybe they didn't care, so they're like, well, let's just do that, not realizing the impact that would have on the viewer, going like, what? Hey, there was a way. A way.
Like, maybe if he had gone super fast and like got him, but then it's like the speed broke his neck or something like that. I don't know. But I don't think they wanted to have. I think that if they had done that, obviously, then it would have been less impactful the way he killed Zod at the end, because that's like the same trauma experience twice.
I guess.
Yeah, okay, so you further then proved your point. They wanted to be able to have it connect somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
man, look at that. I should be in Hollywood.
Yeah, better than what's happening. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of it's AI at this point, unfortunately. Interesting. I saw one of my roommates was watching that Liev Schreiber show you mentioned earlier. Yeah, so I kind of got glimpses of that. I haven't been watching anything, but I have read the Avengers versus what's it called? Aliens.
Oh,
yeah. I heard some spoilers from that. What do you think?
Pretty good. I really dig it. A lot of people do not like it because it takes place in a universe where a lot of people are like weak. The power level is scaled way down.
I mean, it would have to be, right? Like,
exactly.
The writers didn't know how to write superheroes versus aliens, so they had to just scale down their powers.
It's really hard though when you're doing multiversal things, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so far it's great. I love the suspense. It just like you just kind of get these characters' perspectives of what's happening, and then you kind of cut away to another person. You go back to them, and they're just infested, and you're just like, "What just happened? What's going on?" And everyone's trying to unravel it, and people that are unraveling it are also getting caught up in it. So it's
okay.
cool.
If you could compare it, pick one alien movie that it's closest to, even if they're not the same. And this includes AVP 2.
Maybe Covenant. I'm trying to think. I guess it'd be close to 2. No, cool. Honestly, kind of closer to 3, if we're being honest. Yeah.
Okay. Because all the characters.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
So this is what's interesting about it, I think, is. And I'm disappointed that they went the route that they did, right? Because it's virtually and you can stop me if you think that this is wrong to make this comparison, but like, you know, there was like that whole zombies craze that Marvel was all like, Marvel zombies, hey, we're gonna do this like mini series about, you know, the zombie apocalypse. So, you know, it does seem like it's like an alien apocalypse, right? It's like Marvel zombies but with aliens instead of zombies.
Yeah,
So,
more
okay,
or less, a little
end
bit.
of the world scenario almost. Like,
Yeah, we'll see if it takes it to that level. It usually does in these like confined universal events. It's even in the Marvel zombies, they all rode off on Galactus and conquered the universe, like literally.
wow. Well, so it would be cool though if they figured out a way again to write it where it's in the confines of it. Like, think of where somehow xenomorphs get to the X Mansion and they're slowly figuring this out. Like Wolverine's like, "What, bub?" and then starts slashing, but then like the acid is eating the skin, you know,
Yes.
and it's like, what?
Like he can't heal from it. Like,
Oh, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
But then, like, you know, Cyclops comes in, is like, what's going on, and blasts someone, but then the acid sprays all over a student. Like that type of like figuring out, like, okay, what's this threat?
I think that that's probably the thing that's missing from comic books lately now anyway, is something that's more, you know, scaled down as opposed to these world-ending events. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the issue with the Marvel movies for me in general. Is over and over again. It's like, oh, what's the new threat you need? The most superhero. Okay, now another one. Now another one. And yeah, it's hard. Yeah, having it like that's what I've heard. This new Spider-Man's going to be where they're trying to scale it down. But yeah, that's
really, I heard the opposite. They're trying to the executives are trying to go full multiverse again, and everyone's like, "Don't do this."
Okay, yeah. So what I heard is Disney Marvel has written a more neighborhood Spider-Man, but Sony, since they have say, wants to do the big multiverse thing.
Yes,
Which,
that's
yeah.
It
That would
seems-
make sense that Sony would want to do that.
Sony.
I know. I can't believe they got that Venom 3 coming out, which
Venom 3, Craven the Hunter's coming out this year.
yeah, and they made that Craven rated R to kind of hopefully go on that Deadpool and Wolverine thing.
Don't you love all
Venom,
these?
go ahead. Like the first Venom was okay.
Sure.
The second one, I wasted my time watching that. The third one, the trailers look interesting. There was a Venom horse. So
well, they had that in Ghost Rider too.
Oh, did they?
They had a burning horse next to a motorcycle. It was great.
Oh, that's sounding familiar. Yeah, that was another wasted opportunity. If you got Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider, like
great. He needs the work. He has a lot of debt.
Yeah, when are we gonna get Morbin 2? You know?
Oh my god.
Oh man. Yeah, all these villains without Spider-Man just don't do it. You kind of need that other guy.
You know, it reminds me of Batman, where I only like the criminals. Yeah. Like, I don't care about supervillains with Batman.
Yes.
You know, like I love just the criminal type stuff. Like I even heard this new Batman 2 is gonna focus on that.
That works, yeah. That works really well in the DC verse. I noticed they really fleshed out their villains where you can watch it. Like I just watched Kite Man, which is a spinoff of the Harley Quinn show, and it's in the Harley Quinn kind of universe where everything's kind of lampooned. And that's great. So I guess I did watch something. There you go.
Hey, there you go.
I saw that on the HBO Max app.
Yeah. It's great. I like it. I enjoy it. It makes fun of the universe. Like I said, I can't take DC seriously, so this is the only way I could watch DC now. But yeah, I like and again, it's all about the villains. Like there's no heroes at all in there. Barely. They're side thought.
Well, because the heroes, you know, and this kind of goes back to if we were to kind of analyze the meta of the superhero genre, the heroes never change. They never like have any kind of arc that, you know, they are like an ever-present, you know, Batman's always going to stop the villain. You know, we've kind of seen everything that can happen with heroes. And so it is kind of interesting to see what are the villains doing in the context of their own little, you know, box within the universe. It's like, I can almost imagine that Penguin show that's going to be coming out, like, you know, him just watching TV, like, oh, you know, look at that, Mr. Freeze busted again, not my problem. Like I've got racketeering to do. Like that would be cool, that show, because apparently it's going to have Batman in it.
like a lot. It's just they're calling it the Penguin because it's just based off of him being the villain.
I hope it's just like Sopranos, but Batman.
Yeah, that'd be neat. I mean, yeah, family dynamic, mafia stuff. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Should we talk about, before we wrap it up, kind of like the topic of being EFF shills? This is a joke, but the idea is we're parroting what's happening currently with the kind of the podcaster realm, and all these different spaces have been infected with these kind of these players, these agent provocateurs, if you will. What is this? How do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? Do you feel like you could trust media in general now? I mean, you can't. Let's just say that you can't. But like, when you watch it, do you feel like you could at least be comforted in it in an entertaining way, even if it's not informative? Or do you need a certain value of information to get something out of certain people, I guess?
Well, you know what? I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of in a way strict with what I'm consuming. Going back to that word, like in terms of what I'm watching, but even to the point where it's like I'm making sure I'm not watching something that's just an echo chamber for me. So if there's ever a world topic that's going on, I'm like, I guess I need to know what's going on here. I tend to seek out where it looks like the conversation is the most interesting, or the comments or whatever. A lot of times in a video that's about a polarizing topic, I'll go to the comments. Even though it's not always a good idea. I think for polarizing topics, you can kind of get a feel of how people are, talking about something, because you're right. Most of the time, you don't know if really you're just being pushed something. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like most of the time, 99% of the time you are, and it's about finding those genuine connections, of content creators.
Yeah. I think that you're onto something there with the reading the comments, reading the quote tweets, because then you're going to get that added context of something is always being left out, and whatever you're watching, reading, there's always, most people, I should say, are not deliberately lying about anything that they say, but they will commit the lie of omission, right? They'll leave out that important bit of context that changes what they're saying, and that's where, like, for better or worse, like, community notes are awesome on Twitter, because it's like you get to, you almost get to see that live fact checking of people's assertions. But I think a red flag to look out for is whenever the topic of the content that you're watching veers from one particular theme to another. And one of the things that I think you'll notice is that a lot of the folks that we're talking about here started when their content revolved around like entertainment and media, and then slowly shifted and devolved into more commentary on social events and current events and things like that. And I guess it all goes back to, what are you consuming this content for? What are you getting out of it?
Yeah.
Is it you're just trying to look for people to tell you what you want to hear, or are you actively trying to be informed about something? And, for my purpose, it's like if I'm subscribed to a Gundam channel, an X-Men channel, or something like that, and then they start talking to me about, even if it's something innocuous, even if it's like, and all of a sudden they're reviewing video games that have nothing to do with the topic that the channel's about, it's like, there's something at work here, right? There's something that's not being addressed. So at least that's my view on that.
Kyle?
Nice. Yeah, I feel that everyone's a liar, and everyone's a crook, and everyone's a shill. So if you just start there, I think you're really good.
Yeah, it's funny, and you could be tested too, because like I was doing some stuff with Bandai Namco for a little bit, and I kind of saw where I wasn't really able to really do my thing, and it was really just scratching their back, and I wonder how much that gets to content creators without realizing it. And so they start making content that's like kind of based around this world that's formed, where there are these limitations that they don't realize they have, but it's because it's almost like they're answering to someone with their content.
Kind of, yeah, more or less. It's you're not wrong. It has to give them more value. Unfortunately, it's always going to give the company more value than it's going to give you. and that's just kind of the position of where you are as a, I guess, person. It depends
Yeah,
whether you're
influencer.
an influencer, whether you're on Instagram. If you're on YouTube, you could definitely break out of that mold and get actual real sponsors and make it, just treat it like a TV show. And that's kind of what my approach is on my channel, is that I treat it like a TV show. It's going to, I don't have this kind of like you guys have this communication with the audience. I do make fun of them a lot, but I don't really like talk to them or interact with them as much. It's just mainly about the content itself. And ultimately, a sponsorship on that content would be great. And ultimately, the whole concept is like, it's like a history channel. So it's like, I want this to be like a history show for the UC, more or less. And that's what I'm trying to do with, an ad on front. And I think that's achievable. It's harder because like I don't rely on like a Patreon. I don't rely on the community to help me out as much. But I think there's value there. Certainly.
Absolutely. Yeah. The path of integrity is always the harder one to walk. And I mean, let's be completely clear, cards on the table. It's like creating content is something that all three of us are doing, eventually with the hopes of that being the our primary source of making a living. Right. So like, let's not kind of pretend like everything is completely altruistic, but the goal, I think, and for me personally, everything that I do, I try to create a sense that I try to create value for the people that are consuming it. Whether that's educational, whether that's like, hey, here's a place where you can find, these products for less expensive than you would pay at a premium store, something like that, whatever the case may be. And I think that that's what you're ultimately doing, providing information about Universal Century, providing information about, mangas that are not easily accessible to people, So, and I think that having that up front is very important. EFF sponsorships aside.
Exactly. And I think actually people would be better off. I know people like start from zero and then they just go community driven, like from the start. I mean, maybe turn that off for like a year. Just turn it, like, not physically, but just like turn it off in your mind. Don't pay attention. Don't focus on it. Just build something, I think that's a good place to end. Don't focus on the audience or the community. Just make something of value worth watching. But yeah, let's wrap it up. Steven, where can they find you this week? Or next week, or any week.
Or another week. Yeah. Well, we'll see how long I am active on platforms. We expressed a lot of controversial opinions today, so I hope I don't get deplatformed. But yeah, Midnight Hatter on Instagram and YouTube. I did just drop a video last week. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it.
Good one.
Yeah, that G3 gas video was great. Go check that out. Not the gas, sorry, the thing that he made about the G3 gas condom.
It's to improve the air quality for you precious colonists.
Yes. Adam, where can they find you?
Yeah, adamblue.com, Gundam Explained on YouTube. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. And you could find me at Simply New Type on YouTube, Free Speech Geek on YouTube. Go check out freespeechgeek.com. We are going to update that soon. But that will do it for us this week, folks. Don't drop colonies, drop truth bombs. That's what I say. There we go.
Good.
Catch you guys later.
Nice deal.
Cheers.